talk by architect Vikram Hundekar. He will talk about the evolution of the academic area designs.
Hello. It's indeed a pleasure for me that, once upon a time you are part of building this campus, and then you have a privilege to speak in what you are in part of creating a campus. Now, before starting the things, I would like to start with a story how this everything has started. See, we won the competition and we were on the cloud 9, and we came for the first meeting in IIT. And we got a brief which I think hardly any architect on this planet must have got. कि हमें competition से पता चला है कि you have a good stock of ideas. Now you just start showing the ideas, and whichever is comfortable, whichever is convenient, and whichever is unique, we'll move ahead. That day we started relooking the entire thing and entire process of design in a very different way, which led to, as Director Saab has rightly said, a lot of teamwork among the consultant, among the sub-consultant, among the stakeholders, the faculties from the IIT side, and there are so many people at our studios with lot of sleepless night, lot of hair turned into gray. Now I don't keep anymore also. So this is just a few glimpses, just to show about how the teamwork has started working. This is the composition of the people who worked upon this campus, and I'm just representing what they have everybody has done, and just sharing our thought. Now this starts with a master plan, where master plan has an excellent approach toward a master plan, to urban design, to campus design, and then to architecture. So there are minimal control in the master plan which has been given, which gives the maximum freedom to any architect who wish to work on this master plan. So there are organized open spaces, there are organized linkage, there is organized movement, and maximum freedom to the architect. And probably that is what architects look for. The master plan has some peculiar guidelines about the academic campus, that presently the academic campus is spread on 10 acre, which has the academic spine and the connection, transparency towards the central vista and towards the river edge. Now this is the generally academic campus is looking. This is the central vista, and this is the river promenade, and this is the academic. This layout is just to orient the entire audience, that the academic campus is split into 9 number of units. We call them as buildings, blocks. But the real design of the campus is not the building. The real design of the campus is something else. So this is how the architecture is generally said, that architecture is not about the buildings, but it's about the spaces which are contained within those built form and the spaces which are around. And probably that space working makes it a campus, not as a building. Because there are so many buildings in and around, but there are very few campuses which are unique in their own nature. Now, this is where our strive for the excellence in having the campus development started in collaboration with IIT-GN. We started with a very different idea of working on figure-ground relationship. We started with the blocks, transparency, permeability, connection, eye-to-eye contact at the spaces level, and then there are buildings which will house the hardcore functions like laboratories, classroom, faculty areas, and so on. Then we started looking at the academic spine, which is, it's considered as one of the link which crosses through the academic area as a part of the master plan brief. started conceiving some of the courtyards with their own identities, introduction of some kind of color element to make every courtyard, every space for every particular block more unique. Now this is how I have compiled a presentation which what was conceived and what is now realized is a mix of both of them. So every laboratory block has a different kind of colors. Now there are no departmental barriers. So there are laboratory blocks based on their requirement. So the campus is conceived without any barriers. Then we move ahead with figure ground and structure plan where the key location of important functions like student activities, the cafeterias, then student lounge, faculty lounge, and all these functions are actually, as a program, are quite secondary. But when it comes to an institute, when it comes to a campus, it becomes one of the primary element, which ties the entire academic environment. Then we worked upon couple of studies of horizontal connection, maximum reach in order to make the campus more pedestrianized, more human friendly, with less vehicles inside, extending the master plan goal, and it should become like a pedestrian's paradise. So that was the way. Then we worked upon the intensities of concentration zones of the students and dispersal over the period of time and with different time frame. One of the very important study what we worked out, because since this is a quite huge campus, so the user density study is one of the important in order to define that what is the optimum open space or the courtyard scale is required for this kind of institute, not only from the usability perspective, but also from the Gandhi perspective. Then we move ahead. Then I'm just showing that how this transparency and permeability of the spaces have been achieved. This is couple of areas were opened up on the stilts where you can see the staircases, entry points of all the spaces. Then this is the connection to the central vista, to the core of the academics. This is where the next auditorium, the 600 capacity auditorium, where the entire lounge of this auditorium connects to the exhibition space. So you transfer to the landscape unless you directly get into a hardcore building. So again, the building design is one part, but the concentration is on the movement, the usability of the outdoor spaces. Then this is one of the space which interacts with the laboratories as well as the classroom. This is how the classroom blocks. Now classroom blocks, laboratory blocks, faculty areas, these are quite rigid in their own requirement because of their space requirement, because of their volumes, because of their technical requirement. But the attempt has been made that none of the things should be so evident on the exterior of the building, at the same time functioning correctly in their own technicalities. So these are some connections to the river, then framing of the views to the academics inside, then some kind of artistically elements of the staircases, which becomes a part of the sculptural value of this entire campus and start contributing in bits and pieces. Now there is a play of light because see the Gujarat and especially in Gandhinagar we see a very harsh climate. There is a harsh sun condition in most of the time. Then so there is an opportunity of having the shades and shadows and creation of patterns. So the shadows will help for the student and faculties to pass through in a very comfortable zone. At the same time, it will keep on creating the elevations or the patterns which will be always changing with the period of time. Now these kind of some of the transparent elements in between. Now what I will do that, see there are so many things which have gone into design which I can keep on talking, but we have shortlisted 4 to 5 important points which makes this academy campus. One was with the transparency and open spaces I discussed just now. The second is one of the most important is the central academic pedestrian spine, which is been conceived as a hub of activities and interaction zone and spaces for the student. Now this is how the central spine which runs through the entire academic complex. This is the arrival court. This is the formal court of entry point for the academics when the This main entrance will be constructed. Eventually, the library will come. This will become the formal entrance for the court. Then we enter through the academic campus, through that particular spine. What we see is first gateway canopy. Now generally the canopies are, they're covered with a slab, but this is one of the very silent intervention what we try to do. This is this conceived as a sky is the limit. So a student which enters into a campus, he himself sees that it's a sky is the limits. For his all the freedom, all the activities are to be taken care into the institute. Then you move ahead and you see the glimpses of the central open space, which I'll talk much later. Then you see the small connections which looks to the river, and all the entry point of the building starts emphasizing on the central spine. And these are the frames, these are some connections. And the spine continues towards the classroom blocks. Existing trees has been preserved to a great extent, which are now important element of this campus. Now the second important aspect of academic campus is the Samvad court, which is a genius loci. Now genius loci is in urban design term, it's a spirit of a place. So if somebody says that this is the fantastic campus, or somebody says this is the fantastic place, what is there which is actually a spirit of place? So for us, the open space of this campus is the spirit, not the building. And that spirit we have celebrated through a couple of things. Now this court is considered as a interaction and communication court. So it's a center court. Then it also symbolizes very silently about the Gujarat cultural response, that irrespective of the caste, creed, economic background, in the Uttarayan and the Makar Sankranti, we see the sky is full of kites, which never says that which kite belongs to it. It is all in assorted manner, but as a whole, we get a very holistic view. And this is what we try to conceive, that Gujarat philosophy through this central court, which is the heart of this academic campus. And the third is that this court is ever-changing pattern of play of light and shadows. Because of the space frame and because of the structural, some interesting things we try to do. Every minute this court is different across the season, across the year. Now this is, I have just put some images that this is what we try to conceive, the image, and this is what is actually realized. Now this conceiving the image which is below, probably the 20th option what we did at our end, and is the last one what we try to put it, which more or less relate to what we have realized. Now this is the another axis. Now this is how from the block 4 it's in twilight. So in the evening the court gets another dimension where the shadows disappear, but the glimpses of light starts coming inside. So this is the pattern of the floor. Sometimes the pattern on the floor it happens, sometimes the pattern on the walls it happens. So entire experience we try to achieve it as a much magical experience. Now this is how it looks like. This is in the late evening. Now this is, the third is one of the important aspect is a nation coach Vishwangan. This is a very intangible point which we try to reinforce through our academics design, that when we were doing the competition also, in newspaper and all those so many things we have learned about that there is a brain drain, a lot of scholars from the IITs go outside and, perform lesser to the Indian context. So what is the thing what we can imply in physical manifestation which will help maybe silently to the students that there's somewhere I have to perform here. So then the idea of nation courts Vishwangan started, which has a reference marker, which is a landmark throughout the academic campus, because academic campus is the first thing to build along with the hostel and housing, but it will set a precedent for all the rest of the future development will likely to come. So it has a lot of burden on our shoulder. We try to cope up with that burden. Now the reference marker is very nicely named as Lal Minar by the institute itself. The court will have couple of nationally important elements, maybe the experiment by the students, experiments and some achievements which are done by the Indian scientists at the global level. And there could be exhibition, installation, so many things can keep on happening in this thing. And this court will be a court of retrospection. That what, from where we have come from and where we want to go. So there is a lot of symbolism which has gone. There is a symbolism of pradnya, pratibha, prerana, which can be engraved on the RCC walls. Here, one of the very important element which I would like to share about that reference marker. Initially, our conceptual idea was to have something embedded on that concrete wall, which is of the national element related to nationality. So we were thinking of a flag. Then we started thinking on an abstract manner to have Ashok Chakra. And then Srivastavji has intervened in a particular perfect time that such a national important emblems cannot be used in isolation for those things. And that was the period we were completely stuck, because we have conceived for 2 years with the Ashok Chakra, and one certain day we cannot use it. And probably it may dilute the characteristics of that particular thing. CPWT team, Laksha Bhargavji, I remember they kept on asking, drawing for that particular tower. And then we started researching what is the new thing which can take place of this. And then I think after 1.5 months of striving the idea, we got hold of the ancient time wheel, which is in the Konark Sun Temple, which, since it is a time wheel, it will symbolize as a clock tower. So it is the contemporary expression, at the same time the most one of the ancient Indian mythology. Once we hit that idea, then the emblem was start putting in. Then the nightmare at the construction end started, but architect was relaxed. So this is how the tower started. This is the emblem then which was made in the plywood. This is the team which was instrumental in actually realizing that part. We can see that how it was taken up. It was a bit heavy, challenging job. And then this is how the tower has been conceived. Now there is deliberately a very different color, red color, which has been introduced, because we can see across the campus, across the river, all color, green, yellow, blue, all colors we can see, but the red we rarely will see. So it will stand out on its own. That was one of the very idea. It was a great experimentation in the pigmented concrete itself, probably one of the unique experiment in India itself. So these are some glimpses of the tower. Now this is where this emblem has been embossed. It's a quite tedious job, but it has been done. Now this is how the landmark tower is now as a landmark to the campus within the site, at the same time across the Gandhi. Now there is one of the interesting element that there is a river promenade which has been planned across the river edge in the master plan. So we thought of exploiting that idea further, taking the most recreational functions of the academic campus on its edges. So we had 2 big canteens and lot of steps, social gathering areas which connects that promenade, and probably that journey will become like a more leisurable journey. So part of the construction in the civil construction which is connected to the building has been completed. Promenade is now under construction. So this is how the response of the building is happening towards the promenade. And this reinforces the one of our finest, what we can say, that dream probably, that the campus should not be having any front, any back or any side. None of the building should have a rear or front. So it's a no rear side campus which has been conceived. And now one of the interesting element is that we have conceived so many spaces within the courtyards and all those. Actually, it is up to institute to use the way they want to, because it should create a high level of flexibility, it should create a high level of freedom and high level of exploration. And now there are a couple of glimpses how over the period of time the institute is using this space. There is a flag hoisting which is happening in the Vidya Chaya, which is the most auspicious court. Then there is some kind of festive environment which is happening. Then the school trip which is happening, which is again in the center of that samvad, which is the court of interaction, then dinner across the main central court. And there are so many things, learning, some exhibition, and small things which are happening. There is the central space, there is orchestra kind of, so students are exploring the spaces the way we want to, and that was, I think, probably the objective of our academic exercise. So this is the stilt area where we just now had a registration and a tea session. And this is actually what we visualize, the campus with the global standard, with the infrastructure which is at par with any global institute, the student with the global inspiration, with all the freedom the institute has, but their roots should be firm in the ground. So the spaces are Indianized, though the technology or though the infrastructure is of the global standard. And this is actually, this will reinforce actually what Jain sir has said, that the campus will remain on timeless ground. We wish to remain on the timeless ground to nurture the future generations which will come in the campus and will grow. Thank you very much.